It was an early Monday morning when James, a tall, confident black man in his early 40s, dressed in a crisp navy blue suit, decided to walk to his new office instead of taking the car. The air was cool and refreshing, and James thought the walk might help him clear his mind and prepare for his new role as the regional manager at the prominent corporate office downtown. His reputation preceded him. He was known for his fairness, sharp wit, and ability to turn struggling teams into high-performing units. However, this was a new office, with new faces, and he knew it might take time to establish trust. As he walked down the bustling street, he noticed the usual Monday morning chaos, people rushing with coffee cups, delivery vans honking, and the general hum of the city waking up. James didn't mind. He enjoyed observing the rhythm of city life, its imperfections, and its surprises. About halfway to his destination, he paused at a street vendor to grab a bottle of water. Just as he twisted the cap open, he heard a loud voice behind him. "Move it, man. Some of us actually have places to be." James turned to see a young man in his late 20s, wearing a slightly wrinkled grey suit and carrying a worn briefcase. The man, who introduced himself as Ryan to the vendor moments before, had a look of irritation mixed with impatience. James raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He took a sip of water and stepped aside, thinking the incident was too minor to even bother addressing. But Ryan wasn't done. "Seriously, some people just stand around like they own the place," Ryan muttered, clearly directing his frustration at James. James glanced at him, still silent, and noticed the faint logo on Ryan's briefcase. It was from the very company James was about to join. He smiled to himself but kept his composure. Ryan wasn't finished venting. "You look sharp enough. You should know better than to block the sidewalk during rush hour. Probably just out here pretending to be busy, huh?" Typical. The insult stung, not because of its content, but because of the underlying assumption. James stood straight and met Ryan's gaze. He could have said something right then, but he decided to wait and let the day unfold. "Have a good day," James finally said, his tone calm and unbothered. Ryan scoffed and stormed off, weaving through the crowd with the energy of someone who thought the world owed him something. James chuckled under his breath, picked up his pace, and soon arrived at the sleek office building that would now be under his leadership. Inside, the atmosphere was busy but slightly tense. People hurried past one another with files and laptops, exchanging polite but hurried greetings. James made his way to the top floor, where his new assistant, a cheerful woman named Carla, greeted him with a warm smile. "Mr. Hayes. Welcome to the team. Everyone's eager to meet you," Carla said, extending her hand. James returned the handshake and followed her to his spacious corner room with a breathtaking view of the city. As he settled in, Carla handed him a roster of employees and a schedule for the day. James quickly scanned the names, and there it was, Ryan Thompson, Junior Associate. James smiled again. Fate had an interesting sense of humor. Later that morning, James decided to hold a brief introductory meeting with the entire team. Carla sent out the email, and within 15 minutes, the conference room was filled with staff members. Some looked curious, others slightly nervous. Ryan entered last, still clutching his worn briefcase, and took a seat near the back. He didn't seem to recognize James immediately, but as James began speaking, Ryan's face froze in horror. "Good morning, everyone, James began, his deep voice commanding attention. I'm James Hayes, your new regional manager. I'm excited to work with all of you to take this team to new heights. Ryan's jaw dropped. His eyes darted around the room, as if searching for an escape. James continued, not missing a beat. Before we dive into business, I'd like to emphasize one thing: mutual respect is the foundation of any successful team. We're all here to support each other, regardless of our roles or backgrounds. Treating one another with dignity isn't just expected, it's essential. Although James didn't call out Ryan directly, the pointed comment clearly struck a nerve. Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his chair, avoiding eye contact. After the meeting, as the team dispersed, Ryan lingered near the door, visibly nervous. Finally, he approached James, who was reviewing some files. Mr. Hayes, can I have a word? Ryan asked hesitantly. James looked up, his expression neutral. Of course, Ryan. What's on your mind? Ryan fumbled with his briefcase strap, his usual arrogance replaced with sheepishness. I didn't realize who you were earlier this morning. I might have said some things that were out of line. I'm really sorry. James leaned back in his chair, studying Ryan for a moment. Apology accepted, he said finally. But let this be a lesson, Ryan. You never know who you're talking to or what they're going through. A little patience and kindness go a long way. Ryan nodded vigorously, his relief palpable. Yes, sir. Absolutely. It won't happen again. James gave him a small smile. Good. Now get back to work. We've got a lot to do. As Ryan left the office, James turned back to his files, his smile fading into a thoughtful expression. He knew leading this team would come with its challenges, but moments like these reminded him why he took the job in the first place, to change not just performance metrics, but also perspectives. The rest of the day was relatively uneventful. James spent most of it reviewing reports, getting to know his team's strengths and weaknesses, and meeting department heads. By the time evening rolled around, he had a solid understanding of the dynamics at play within the office. There was talent, no doubt, but also tension, a competition for recognition, cliques, and, as James had already witnessed, a tendency among some to jump to conclusions about others. Ryan, to his credit, kept his head down for the rest of the day. During the team introduction, James had noticed Ryan's colleagues exchange amused glances whenever he spoke, as if they were used to his bluster. But something told James that Ryan wasn't a lost cause. His arrogance seemed more like a mask or a defense mechanism rather than a core personality trait. That evening, James decided to host informal one-on-one meetings with a few team members, giving everyone a chance to speak candidly about their roles and aspirations. When Ryan's turn came, the young man entered the office looking like a schoolboy awaiting punishment. Take a seat, Ryan, James said, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. Ryan obeyed, clutching his briefcase like a lifeline. Tell me about yourself, James began, leaning back in his chair. Why did you join this company? What drives you? Ryan hesitated, his usual bravado conspicuously absent. Well, I started here about 2 years ago. I wanted to work in corporate strategy, but there weren't any openings. So, I took this position in client services to get my foot in the door. James nodded. And how's it going so far? Ryan shrugged, his discomfort evident. It's okay, I guess. I mean, I've learned a lot, but sometimes it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels. Like, I'm not really moving forward, you know? James studied him for a moment before replying. Do you feel like you're being overlooked, or is it something else? Ryan's eyes darted to the floor. Maybe a bit of both. I guess I just feel like I have more to offer, but no one takes me seriously. And, well... He hesitated. Sometimes, I probably don't help myself with the way I act. James raised an eyebrow. Such as? Ryan flushed. Like this morning. I was frustrated, running late, and instead of just keeping my mouth shut, I made assumptions about you. That wasn't fair, and I know it. Good to hear you recognize that, James said, his tone firm but not unkind. Here's the thing, Ryan, if you want people to take you seriously, you need to carry yourself with respect for yourself and others. Your talent will only get you so far. Your attitude is what will open or close doors. Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing the words. I understand, sir. I'll do better. Good, James said, his tone softening. Now, let's talk about where you want to go from here. You mentioned corporate strategy. What steps have you taken toward that goal? For the next 20 minutes, they discussed Ryan's aspirations, strengths, and areas for improvement. By the end of the conversation, Ryan looked less like a scolded child and more like someone ready to prove himself. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, Ryan said as he stood to leave. I really appreciate this. And again, I'm sorry for earlier. James nodded. Apology accepted, Ryan. Now show me what you're capable of. Actions speak louder than words. As Ryan left, James felt a sense of satisfaction. He hadn't just diffused a potential conflict, he'd planted a seed of change. He knew Ryan's journey wouldn't be immediate or easy, but he also knew that people could surprise you when given the chance. The next few weeks flew by. James worked tirelessly to foster a culture of collaboration and respect within the office. He implemented weekly brainstorming sessions, encouraged open-door policies, and made it clear that everyone's contributions were valued, regardless of their rank or role. Ryan, true to his word, began to change. He spoke less and listened more, sought feedback on his work, and even started mentoring a new intern. His colleagues noticed the shift and began warming up to him, no longer exchanging amused glances when he spoke but instead engaging with his ideas. One afternoon, about a month after James had joined the office, the team presented a major proposal to a key client. Ryan, who had been deeply involved in crafting the strategy, delivered a portion of the presentation. He was poised, articulate, and confident, and not the brash, impatient man James had met on the street. When the meeting ended, and the client expressed their enthusiasm for the proposal, James clapped Ryan on the back. Well done, he said simply. Ryan beamed. Thank you, sir. Later that day, as James walked through the office, he overheard two employees talking near the break room. Can you believe how much Ryan's changed? One said. It's like he's a completely different person. Yeah, the other replied. I think it's because of Mr. Hayes. He doesn't just lead, he inspires people to be better. James smiled to himself as he continued down the hall. Moments like this reminded him why he'd taken the job, not just to manage an office, but to leave a lasting impact on the people within it.